So what you said, to me, the far more interesting thing in what you said is the prospects of Rakim versus Big Daddy Kane, which is something that I do believe could happen. What about you?
I think hip hop will always be a voice for the people.
How you doing, man?
Same, man. Another Sunday in paradise.
Another Sunday in paradise.
Yeah, man.
Yo, what's the sign say behind you?
That's in case there's a fire that lets somebody know to get my dog before they get me.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, it just lets them know there's a pet in here. So yeah, even though I think it would take 2 or 3 fire workers, firemen and women to grab my dog. So
Yeah, man. I know how Theo gets down. I'm not sure. Like I could do it. Like I'm mortally scared of Theo, dude.
yeah, that was an odd exchange. Yeah, man. You guys, it was like the Source Awards up when you two met.
What is it though? What is it?
What do you mean? What is it?
What I mean, is it just me, or is it that's how he gets down with people?
You know what it was? I should have, when you came in the spot, I should have met you outside, and instead it was like, because actually that happened this morning with somebody else at Maya's, and a guy answered the door and came in, and like all hell broke loose.
Did this happen to be a black man also?
A brown man.
I'm starting to see a pattern. What's up with Theo, dog? Like,
no, I mean, and not
he's
for nothing.
He's a black
I mean,
dog too. I mean, come on, man. What's going on?
He's the Clayton Bigsby of dogs. You know?
Right.
I mean, if he was a racist, it wouldn't work out too well in West Philly. But we're working on him, man. I'm gonna give him some literature. You know.
Okay. All right. That's good, man. Well, I'm Reggie Williams, founder and CEO of Ambrosia for Heads, and with me I have Jake Payne, our editor-in-chief, and together we are Ambrosia for Heads, and this is our podcast, What's the Headline? Yeah, I think it's only right, man, we start the day off with an apology, so go ahead.
I apologize for Reggie saying that Lil Wayne's first album was the Carter One. There's a lot of people on Facebook, on Instagram, on Young Money's social platforms. We are looking wild ignorant when it comes to New Orleans bounce music.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I was gonna have you apologize on your behalf regarding 2 Chainz. Said he was gonna get washed by Rick Ross, man. I had that. I had it at 992.
Oh, you had it at a draw?
I had after 20. Yeah.
Interesting. I saw that Billboard had it very close as well, giving Ross the edge. And I don't know if that was one writer or their staff. I've yet to hear one person, and I haven't gone out of my way and done Pew research and called everyone on my phone, but I've yet to hear one person say that 2 Chainz won. What have you heard in regard to that?
I haven't heard anyone say he won, although, with the bonuses, they did more than 20, first of all. But Ross, did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. I did not watch in full, but I watched, I looked at the scorecard and I watched over an hour,
Ross was bullying. He was bullying, dude. Like he was supposed to go second. Yeah. He went first. They're supposed to flip it up in the middle.
Interrupted him a few times.
He refused to do that.
Yeah.
He played multiple songs in a row in the bonus round. Like he just was like on some bully stuff. So it's hard to judge the bonuses.
Yeah.
But with the bonuses, I'd I'd give it to Chainz by like 1.
Interesting. So you're the first, yeah.
But you thought he was gonna get washed, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely thought it was gonna be less close than it was. This was not my favorite battle at all. And for not for nothing. I mean, we talked about it last podcast. I would say in both of these artists who I have the utmost respect for, both artists I've covered, I've interviewed, I've done things. You're a bigger fan in both cases than I am. I expected Ross. Yeah, I mean, I expected 2 Chainz to come up with about 5 or 6 wins, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the way I scored it, it was, I didn't do ties just because that's easy, and I know that everyone else is doing ties, but I had Ross winning by 2 or 3 songs. You know.
So, what was the biggest surprise for you?
That's a really good question. I mean, not in the battle itself, but Ross didn't play any of his Maybach music, you know, not theme songs, but you know what I mean, in the series, right?
He played. I think he played one.
I'm not so sure. You might be right, but yeah, I mean, both of them left songs on the table, arguably. I mean, and we say that every time. Anyone capable of doing a Verzuz isn't just a 20-song artist. But yeah, I mean, I can't say there was like a huge surprise for me in any way. Ross had a few that I expected to hear, you know, and didn't. What about you though?
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't do anything from Mastermind. Maybe you know, because that's probably my favorite album of his. And
Even more than Teflon Don?
yeah, he's got some bangers on Mastermind. Richest Gangsta, you know, War Ready,
Yeah.
Nobody. He's got some joints on that. You know, I was surprised.
That's definitely in his top 3 albums, in my opinion. And I think a lot of my opinion on that has to do with you. You know, I mean, we covered it extensively when it dropped at AFH. And also, you know, for those that have heard, you know, Reggie and I do this thing, which I find is a great way. I actually tell my friends to do it. Of just like, yo, what's your song of the day? And it could be the song that's stuck in your head, a song that fits your vibe, a song that you just keep listening to. And shit, we're like 5 years in on that, maybe 4.
Yeah.
And you know, Amanda Mester was part of it when she was, you know, with AFH. And yeah, I mean, oftentimes even into 2020, I know Ross and the Mastermind album have been big for you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I actually attended the listening party for that. And you know, most industry listening parties, as you know, are like at a club or a bar, and you know, the music is kind of incidental. It's really just a place for people to go and kind of politic and network.
Drink for
So,
free.
yeah, right. But Ross had it in a movie theater, and he had like pristine visuals. It was dark, you know, and the focus was strictly on the music. It's pretty dope. It's really good.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I like the pageantry of it, the massages, the dancers, the physical activity. I mean, really, these have come a long way in the last 4 to 6 weeks. As you know, I mean, Corona hasn't changed, but just how we're all quarantining has. And I feel like we said it hugely about Snoop and DMX, but I feel like the production quality of Versus is getting better, and the level of curation in these playlists is really exciting. So, you know
Yeah.
what? I won't apologize for my opinion. I can't remember if I used the word wash, but certainly my forecast of the record agree. You know, it lines up with that. But you know, while I advocated that I wasn't so sure that 2 Chainz was a worthy Ross opponent, after the fact, I definitely see why these two lined up well.
Yeah, I mean, Chainz, he's just got so many features. Like, you know, there's stuff that I forgot about. He's got great club bangers, just hits, you know. And so I thought they lined up really well. You know, so in the wake of that, 2 more have been contemplated. One was put out there by Swizz, Kanye versus Drake, and the other, okay, I need to. The other one was Rakim actually reached out and to Kane,
Yeah.
you know, and challenged Kane. So okay, so all right, Kanye versus Drake. Why you roll your eyes on that one?
Not for nothing, never happened. I
Never.
mean, I mean, it's sort of like what we've been saying about Jay. You know, Drake is above this. I think that right now, you know, anytime Kanye goes into album season, he's not above doing interesting things. I mean, in the early years, that was kind of doing massive press runs, and more recent years, you know, we remember the TMZ stuff. We remember the videos on buildings, all of this different stuff. I think Kanye would do it.
Instead of press runs running for president.
Yeah, I mean, whatever this is, even if running for president is part of the press run, and I think we have more to say on that in a minute. But I think Drake is just Drake has positioned himself not unlike, you know, Dre and Eminem at their pinnacle. It takes a lot to get Drake off his mountain, you know, And, you know, you can look quite literally at what Kanye's done over the last 2 years. Drake isn't coming off that mountain. And I damn sure don't think he's doing it for Verzuz, especially, you know, a month or so after Swizz seemed to diss him in that Instagram Live with Busta Rhymes and later apologize for it.
Right.
But if Drake were to do something like this, sort of like Jay, he'd need to own it. You know, he'd need to monetize it in some way. Not that he needs money, but just on that power play level, I don't think so. Do you think there's a shot in hell we'd ever see that battle on this platform?
I mean, I think we could see it just out of ego. You know, I think he would do it maybe to try and dominate Kanye. You know what I mean? I think they have enough ill will that Drake would actually want to come out and flex and show that he is like, you know, superior to Kanye in terms of like the influence on the culture. I could see him trying to do that, you know. Aside from that, you know, I don't know that, is there anybody that can compete with Drake? I mean, who's got a catalog like Drake's? Jay? I mean.
Yeah, and to me that albeit interesting, that doesn't quite line up, you know, just given the eras. I mean, I know they've both been relevant, overlapping, but that's not a good battle. I mean, so what you said to me, the far more interesting thing in what you said is the prospects of Rakim versus Big Daddy Kane, which is something that I do believe could happen. What about you?
I do, but, you know, and I'm probably going to get killed for this, but do you think that the two of them have the catalogs to do 20 songs each?
Yeah, I do. And I know why you asked the question, and you damn sure aren't hating.
I mean, those are two of my favorite MCs ever.
Yeah.
But I also think about the fact that, you know, Kane has 2 good albums. And Rakim has, you know, let's see, Paid in Full, Follow the Leader. They got four. He and Eric B got 4 good albums.
And then his first solo, I mean, I know that not all of that stuff necessarily plays, but Rakim has at least 5 solo joints that knock, you know.
5 solo joints that knock?
Not albums, songs.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I would even go there, but like.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff alone with Premiere always works. Like you have that effect of like, you know, it's been a long, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, so again, this is an interesting battle. We've talked about this. First thing I want to say is I still don't believe that Rakim is running his Instagram account. Rakim is one of these artists that historically has some dissidence with whoever handles his social media, you know, over the years. And actually, you know, somebody I know, Uncle Louie, who runs with Eric B, was running the joint accounts for a lot of them. And has said as much, but there were political endorsements over the years. There's been promises of a reunion before the press run. So Rakim and anything Twitter and Instagram is always a little bit sus to me. That being said, you know, the account that did that seems to be legit. I mean, you know Rakim. It's hard for me to imagine Rakim uploading anything to Instagram.
Yeah. And calling out Kane for a battle because,
But, you know, that being said, both of these men in interviews, both of these legends have spoken about wanting to do this, spoken about how they kind of need to do it. I forget which one it was that was like, yo, we got to do it, but it's got to be for a lot of money. And obviously that won't, that's not how Verzuz works.
That was Kane. Yeah. He was saying do a pay-per-view, but I think he was also thinking like a battle, like them rhyming with one another.
Right. And if you do something like this, does that end that? Does that throw that, you know, what if out of the window? I don't know. But I think it would be really dope. And the one thing, I mean, we've seen, especially since the early Verzuz, is there's a huge spike in streams for artists afterwards and just recognition and celebration. And, you know, that was really great to see with Erica and Jill. I think that was really great to see with Snoop and X. I mean, I like that here, and especially with where we're at, where, you know, Rakim might have the better catalog. Kane, and you and I have talked about this before in this podcast, I think Kane is hands down the better performer. Not to say that, you know, he can have dancers and, you know, do the whole Teddy Riley thing, but I mean, that is one I'm going to tune in for. And from what I read, I know that the numbers of Rick Ross versus 2 Chainz were not nearly as strong as they were with X and Snoop. Not that that surprises anyone, but I think with this battle, this is like the hip hop version of Babyface and Teddy Riley. Tell me, as a 36-year-old, if I'm out of line making that comparison.
Nah, I think you're right. No. Actually, we had that already. That was Premier and RZA. You know, if we're gonna go producers and people who
Word.
literally like
Songwriter.
dominated eras, I'd say that's Premier and RZA.
Yeah.
But
and yeah. Okay. I mean, that's fair. I would love to see this though. I mean, I really would, and I definitely think there's 20 songs, and in Kane's case, there's features. Yes, he has 2 classic albums, but on Looks Like a Job for, there's joints in there. There's Show and Prove. You can do the Tupac, Biggie, Shaheem, the Kane. Like, there's moments, and he's had features over the years that scorch. Yeah, I'm here for that if that goes down.
yeah, I think Rakim, especially with those 4 albums with Eric B, has got 20 he's got 20 bangers for sure. I mean, he could play like all except for the instrumentals are paid in full, and that's like 6, 7 right there. And then Follow the Leader, Don't Sweat the Technique, and why am I blanking on the 3rd album? But the one with In the Ghetto, and
Large
Mahogany, like what I'm talking about. But in
yeah,
any
I'm like
case,
1990. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that will be a great one. So to date, Jill Scott and Erykah Badu is still the biggest in terms of simultaneous users. Why do you think
that is
yeah,
bigger than X? And okay,
in terms of simultaneous users, yeah. So the 2.6 or whatever million number that Swizz was using was unique. So it wasn't simultaneous viewers for DMX and Snoop.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was? Is it because these are largely probably male skewing, but Jill and Erykah brought out both? And Teddy and Babyface, I think, was the same. That was like 500,000.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's what it is, or something else?
I think it's partially that, but I also think probably a bigger effect is just where we are with quarantine. It's high summer now. Most people are not completely staying home anymore. Whereas in March, April, May, especially on Saturday nights, that was the spring. It was raining. It was cold, and these became really interesting things. I have to feel that played into it, but certainly, if you build it, people will come, and we saw that definitely with Snoop and X.
Right.
Which was a weeknight. You've moved from Saturdays into weeknights, which tells me that Swizz and Timberland see that too. I mean, starting with Jadakiss and Fabulous, they tried Monday. Snoop and X was Wednesday, and now Ross and 2 Chainz was Thursday. So, yeah, I mean, it's just you see it a bit.
Yeah, there's more competition with the NBA and stuff like that too. So, so we touched on this for a second, but Kanye running for president, he's actually getting on ballots in states, and now it's come out. 2 things have come out. One, that like Republican operatives have been helping him with his campaign, which suggests that it's purely designed to like interfere with Biden. But now Kanye himself has come out and I guess acknowledged that he's doing this to help Trump. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm just scratching my head. I mean, Kanye feels the way he feels politically, socially, what this country's going. But, it doesn't surprise me. Of course, it behooves the opposing party to do that. I think that in 2016, I think that there was a lot of conservatives and Republicans that were very happily pouring gasoline on the fire that was Bernie Sanders running against Hillary to try to divide and conquer. So here we go again. And the fact that, Kanye could appear on some state ballots and not others is just a reflection to me of, how much work the, election process and electoral college needs. That's just odd to me that you would have it in, I think they were saying like Utah, Wisconsin, Vermont, but not in other states. And, it's just odd. What's your take?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's another state, I can't remember which one it is now, but like where his it was rejected because they found out that more than 50% of the signatures he'd gathered were fraudulent.
Oh wow.
Which, and you got, claims by Republicans about like fraudulence and like registration and stuff. And, then you got this kind of stuff. I don't really get the strategy because I don't think that first of all, I don't even know who Kanye's fan base is anymore. Like, I think
Right.
he's done so much to alienate the Black community between the MAGA hat and, slavery as a choice and everything. I'm not really sure that I can't see very many, if any, Black people voted for him. So I'm not
Right.
sure if he'd really even be pulling from Biden. Like, I don't know who would vote for Kanye West. Like, seriously, unless it's just like just a desire to, like, thumb your
Be
nose at the
silly.
system. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I can't imagine that. And I don't know. It's just this March to November just keeps getting weirder and weirder. I don't care what side of the coin you fall on. It's just a giant head scratcher. And yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting too. I'm seeing a lot of different ads. I don't know about you, for Joe Biden, that seem like they're beta testing different groups. There's one ad campaign that's he's only wearing masks. There's another that almost looks like a college admissions catalog of like forced diversity. And then there's another one that's literally Biden, like in a series of vignettes, just with different white folks. And I'm like, are you trying to get like a Trump sway vote? Like, the whole thing is just, it is.
Where are you seeing these, on Instagram or something, or what?
I'm seeing them on Hulu.
On Hulu.
Yeah. So all right, I'm a cheapskate. I don't have the one with no ads. Call me out. Call myself
They
out.
got ads on Hulu, like.
Yeah, heavy. Oh wow, flex. Okay. Let me get that American Express. Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah, man, I don't know, dude. There's so much unease, like, between the pandemic and, racial tensions and, now, like, just inherent dread over the election, both the result and, the shenanigans that are going to go on trying to prevent people from voting. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know. I think people just, I'm a kind of person who I can deal with, like, the ultimate, decision or whatever it is that happens. I just don't like the limbo and the not knowing. And like,
Yeah.
so I think whatever happens, people are going to feel more resolved after. I was watching Bill Maher the other day. People are saying we're probably not going to know for at least 5 to 7 days what the results of the election are, since so much of it's going to be mail-in.
Yeah.
And then it's probably going to be like court challenges, and we might not know for months what the results of this election are, which is crazy.
It's gonna look like 2000 times 20. Like, it's gonna be goofy. My only thing is, you know what? I don't care what party anyone follows or who their candidate is, but for the Republicans that want Kanye on the ballot, great, let them debate. Like, I cringe at the thought of this debate in general. Just like Trump and Biden up there going at each other, like, to me, that is gonna just be a head scratcher beyond belief. Let Kanye up there, like, make it into a bigger circus. Because if nothing else, his energy is gonna throw off those two guys. But I say that in jest, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're playing with 4 years of our lives here, and yeah, it's wild.
So speaking of things that make you cringe, Jaguar Wright. Artists who I have loved for years. Like, her first album was just absolutely amazing. Incredible soul singer, affiliated with the Roots crew. In the wake of Malik B's death, came out like with some pretty harsh allegations against the Roots, having a culture of misogyny. Early on, on tour, made some allegations against Common, and doubled down, tripled down many times. What's your take on that in general? Did you watch any of it? Did you read any of it? Like, what was your thoughts about?
I read a lot of it. and I watched some of it, but it's an hour-long Instagram live. Oddly enough, you and I were just talking about Jaguar in the last month, just on a musical level,
I
and kind
sent
of
this song of the day from her. Yeah.
yeah, and I responded to you of, especially I live in Philadelphia, and I kind of was unsure of where, what had happened to Jaguar, and that's not a diss, but people come and go through, his movements change. This whole thing is just messy. I read what she had to say. It's not for me to say, right or wrong. She came out against Common in particular, and I did catch Common this week respond to that on an Instagram live. Don't ask me why, but Common, a day after I think Tiffany Haddish had announced or confirmed that they were in a relationship, jumps on. I'm just like, yo, is Common going to confront this straight on, or is this more going to be about Tiffany? And he said very cryptically, like, things will be addressed when it's time to address them, but he treats it very seriously. She went at Talib Kweli, she went at the Roots. She made, if I'm not mistaken, accusations that Black Dot, had relied on other writers, i.e. possibly Malik B. It was a lot to handle. I thought the timing was strange. I've lost people I love, and I've tried to, maybe push some of, fight some of their battles in the afterlife. What I knew of Malik B, I never knew that he was frustrated. So it's hard for me to speak on, but it came out in a way that was a lot to process. And that's really all I can say about it.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a story that involves two sets of artists that are core to AFH, the
Yeah.
Roots and Common. But it's also the kind of story that we would have been really reticent to cover on the site.
Yeah.
Because of the tabloid nature of it, So what was our process? Let's talk a little bit about our process and evaluate stuff like this, because it was very case by case, and I don't know if we could draw a bright line to say why we covered some things and not others. Certainly wasn't favoritism. Is it more just the speculation part of it, or because if it had been like, I'd say this. You tell me if I'm wrong. If she made allegations toward Common and he was brought up on charges, we would have covered it. But because this is just her, word right now, we would have been very cautious. I'm not sure we would have covered it at all. But if we did so, we would have just been very matter of fact. This is what she's saying, But what's your take on it?
Yeah, and this is what Common has to say. Like, we would have made it a point to watch that whole IG live, which is a weird way to experience statements like this. I mean, we did cover, I'm thinking, what the precedent is here. And we did cover Khalees.
Afrika Bambaataa.
Yeah, I mean, we covered Afrika Bambaataa. We covered Khalees's accusations against Nas. We covered, and I don't think we overly speculated, but we provided some additional context in regards to Solange and Jay-Z in the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
This one is tricky. I will say all day long, you and I would have had probably a very, not tense with each other, but, really running this through our process conversation on the phone. Like, how do we cover it? And Jaguar Wright is an important artist. I believe she's a Grammy Award winner. She's definitely somebody we hold in high regard, and she felt comfortable coming out with this. That being said, I mean, there have been, one of our biggest stories in recent years was about Nelly's Country Grammar going diamond. And we covered that. And I say biggest because of its reaction. It did extremely well for us on Facebook. Nelly is not a core artist to AFH, but that was a benchmark moment in hip hop. People know who Nelly is, whether they like him or they hate him. And I remember, with Me at the Watch, we covered one of the early stages of Nelly's rape allegations, which I believe were subsequently, thrown out. And I remember you, as the founder and CEO, saying, "Hey, I don't think that was the right move." And I think that this kind of falls into that of like, you know what? Let's see what transpires. Let's make sure we get both voices. I don't know if we're ever going to hear anything from the Roots on this one. I don't know if we're ever going to hear anything from Black Dot. But Common, who has all of these awards, who is very much embraced in the mainstream. I do feel like he is going to address it, and I'll be very curious to say when he does. And to me, that would be worth covering once you have statements from at least two sides. I don't know.
Yeah, it's dangerous, man. Like we're in such like high cancel culture now, where allegations without any substantiation can completely take you down.
Yeah.
It's a really, really scary thought. So, on the one hand, I don't know if it's the right thing for Common to respond or not. Uh, you know, I think that the way that she's come off has not presented her necessarily in the best light, and so
You mean in terms of the format, the language, the
format, the
casual?
language,
No.
like everything about it, so he might just let people form their opinions based on her,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. I mean, what would you do if you were him?
I sometimes feel like silence is complicit, or it validates the accusation. I would nip it in the bud. I don't know. The thing that I'll say though is I'm glad we're not faced with this problem. I mean, here we are talking about it, but even this morning ahead of this call, I wanted to see who else covered it. It was something that I became aware of from a place that, I worked many years, Hip Hop DX. I haven't seen the Washington Post or the New York Times or the Philadelphia Inquirer. I haven't seen newspapers or bigger outlets. And that doesn't mean that they didn't cover it, but I ran this through some search engines and it wasn't coming up. I don't know what that means.
It's very much a
But
hip hop story right now. Yeah.
it is, but you can't tell me, I mean, especially with salaciousness, that a BET or, an E Entertainment Television, that they wouldn't, find value in this, if nothing other than chasing clicks and muckraking. But yeah, not seeing that I found interesting, because the one thing I never wanted to do as a journalist and still don't want to do as whatever I am now is, silence a woman or have or silence any press group or have a skewed scope of coverage that always favors the accused.
Nah, and we were certainly not that. I mean, another example is Dee Barnes. We
Word.
covered her very proactively, and we very much shone a light on her story. Dee Barnes being the person that Dr. Dre assaulted back in the late '80s, former host of Pump It Up, and she has been. She was very active when Straight Outta Compton came out, the film about making Dr. Dre, holding him accountable, because in a way that he never was fully back when it happened. And eventually Dre did acknowledge that he was wrong and apologize, seemingly very sincerely for that. But we covered her story pretty aggressively, I think.
And
In
Michelet.
her favor. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Michelet too.
And
Yeah.
Michelet, and I know they both deal with Dre, and and we covered Michelet, and she went on the Breakfast Club, and no shots at Jaguar Wright. I don't know that the Breakfast Club or Sway is going to be down to talk to her given this, but it was a different type of conversation than what that Instagram live looked like, and it was very much like, hey, I'm going to spill the gossip on something that's going to shock you. Boom, here we go. And that's never how I like, and it's not for me, but I'm just saying, like, to me, that's a different, you treat that a little bit differently, or you have to weigh it differently than even Khalees, who I think did hers in a overseas interview, if I'm not mistaken, or with another platform that we don't often hear from, but it was a sit down interview versus a, hey, I'm just going to fly off the cuff with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I watched a few interviews, and it was. It was the energy was was it was heavy.
Yeah.
Very palpable. So in other Philly news and Roots news, Scott Storch, former keyboardist of the Roots, and then becoming a superstar producer, Fat Joe, and tons of people. you know, he had troubles with drugs for a long time, but has kicked it and is now open a rehab center. But you know, you want to kick that
Yeah,
off?
I love to see stories like that. Scott has really seemed to turn his life around. I know that there have been artists that have given him opportunities over the years. I don't think anyone's turning down a Scott Storch beat. I wasn't always the biggest fan of his music, just aesthetically, in the mid 2000s. But truly, like you said, a superstar, and he faded from the light. And Scott's done some great interviews with Sway, with Breakfast Club, with other people, and he'll be the first one to admit that he has himself to blame, money troubles, addiction, all of that. So to see him take it full circle and pay it forward for other people, opening up a rehab center, it's just great to see. And I truly believe, we're going to see Scott Storch produce another like massive series of records. I just feel like, sort of like we've seen with Tim or Swizz, and the like. Scott we're right there right now where his keyboard skills and his ear for programming is about to just explode again.
Yeah, you know, so one of the things that Jaguar talked about was that the Roots, at the very least, did not help Malik B in terms of his addiction, and you know, I think she was suggesting that they might have fostered it a little bit. You know, especially in order to take advantage of his artistic abilities. You know, she accused Black Thought of like stealing his rhymes and them having a rhyme high and he wouldn't remember and they'd go back and steal the rhymes. But do you know if there was any like connection between his addiction and Scott Storch?
Not that I know of. No,
Yeah.
I mean, about it was exactly 10 years ago, around 2010. I actually used to hang out with Dice Raw a little bit. I was watching him work on an album that sort of came out and never did at the same studio that the Roots have historically used here in Philly. I don't believe they use it anymore. They might. And and Dice was very, transparent of telling old stories and things like that. And I never knew that to be the case. And even from what I understand of Scott Storch, while he smoked copious amounts of marijuana back in those 90s, I think the harder drugs that later kind of got him hemmed up came when he relocated to LA, worked with Dre, and then kind of branched off on his own. And I'm not, by no means am I blaming Dre or Aftermath or any of that with it, but from what I understand of the timeline, that came with the fame and the success and what have you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so in other news, Cardi B released her video WAP, which is an acronym for
Wet and Gushy.
yeah, people can look.
That's what they use in the video version. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch the video?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so you were one of the 45 million views in 2 days. What did you think of the video, first of all?
I mean, everything on this was as expected. It's designed to be a viral smash in every way. And, it's interesting that this song, which to me, very much is tailored for the clubs, possibly specifically strip clubs, comes out at a time when, I don't know if strip clubs are open in any state right now. And I don't know what kind of.
They're open in Atlanta.
Oh, they are?
Well, okay. I mean, Lou Williams and the Clippers is getting wings at Magic City.
I didn't even see that.
Damn. Oh yeah, that was a huge story. Like last week, he was out, handling some stuff out of the bubble, and then like got caught with, some what's his name, Jack, Jack Harlow, right?
Okay. Yeah. I know.
Took a picture with him in Magic City. And then first Lou Williams denied that it was during this time period, but he had a mask on that was from the bubble.
Oh man.
So then it became like, I just went to get the wings, but then like one of the dancers came out and said that she danced for him. So I mean, it was just a whole like. But yes, they are open in certain places.
Okay, wow, good to know. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just an odd time for the record. It definitely has that summer feel to it. The video I thought was cool. I mean, it clearly looks like a 7-figure, maybe 8-figure video. It's not, it has the quality of, those MTV videos we used to see back in the day. But that being said, I mean, you know, this musically is not tailored to my taste. What about you?
I thought the video was stunning. The
Okay.
first time I looked at it, I'm like, oh man, like, it is like just, I thought it was just focused on the flesh. But then I went back and looked at it a second time, and I just saw like all the crazy, like, like animals coming out of tongues and like just the like weird little like special effects, like, doorknobs coming alive and stuff like that. It was artistically, it was unbelievably great. And then like, there's the cameos like Kylie Jenner and, all that stuff. Um, Two things that came out of it though. One was Kylie Jenner people were accusing her of appropriating Black culture, but I don't know how that can be the case when it was they who invited her to be in a video. You know what I mean? And so, can you appropriate something when you're being asked to do so by people who are of the culture that you're supposedly appropriating? That's
That's a
one.
really good question. Yeah.
And the second question is, if this had been like a male artist, you and I would have not posted it on AFH because we did not post videos that objectified women. We took a pretty hard stand on that. I took a stand on it even before you joined. I didn't post 2 Chainz's birthday song because I thought it was just unnecessarily objectifying of women. And so I don't think that if this had been a male artist, I would have wanted to post this either. And this probably wouldn't have been for our audience, but just
Yeah.
hypothetically speaking. So it got me wondering, like, is it possible for if it's women doing it, can it be objectifying of women? Like that, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, to your second point, I don't think so, and it's one of those things where I'm not just trying to duck out of an argument, but it's not for me to say. Like, I don't want to be one of those guys that sits there and, um, you know, tells a woman, what is and what isn't objectification. In the same way as a white guy, I don't want to sit between 2 Black folks and tell them, my thoughts on the use of the N-word, like
Mm-hmm.
within the Black community. I don't. Well, so as far as Kylie Jenner, I mean, the Kardashian, dynasty has always, long before Kanye was part of the picture. I mean, they've always integrated elements of hip hop and Black culture into their come up. I mean, that's nothing new. I mean, Kylie Jenner at some point was on Instagram wearing MF Doom. I think they were Air Force Ones or some sort of Nike, and the sneaker community was up in arms, like, yo, is this a good look for Doom, or is this just like, is this dumb as could be? I, to your biggest point, I wouldn't put this on AFH. It's a huge video. It's a touchstone song, but it is not on brand for us. And if I'm not mistaken, back in 2014 or 15, we didn't post Drake, used to call me on the cell phone, the
Hotline
name of the
Bling.
yeah, Hotline Bling. And
Yeah.
that was a massive record. And I feel like, I mean, I eventually came around on it. I think when it dropped, you might have liked it. I mean, we weren't against the record, but we were like, this is not us.
Yeah.
And that video was also a touchstone. I mean, in a different way, but like visually, that aesthetic is all through hip hop today. Like the Colors videos and different things like that. To me, I'm a fan of Meg. I'm a fan of Cardi. Certain things they do, like especially on this song, you can hear how much Meg has been inspired by Bun B. Like her delivery, all of that. Like you can hear the greater Houston in her. I often feel like her delivery reminds me a lot of Juicy J too. But this ain't the one. I support the record. I'm glad, for the folks it hits, but it's not what I choose to listen to for several reasons.
Yeah, so and we big proponents of women rappers. Rhapsody, No Name, lots of people, but
Sure.
like Shay Noir, like I want to go back to that for a minute because you listened to the album before I did, and I know you had an advanced copy. We posted her and 38 Special on our playlist over a year ago. Like I literally just took it off like a day or two ago.
I saw that. Yeah.
She I mean, she goes in, and we have Blimes and Gap, Blimes, Brixton and Gap. Like we you know, we choose to support spitters, and not to say that like Cardi isn't. I don't think most people would see her as like being super lyrical or anything. But this Shea Noir album with Apollo Brown, as God intended,
Yeah.
man, I finally dug into it this weekend, and it is like top shelf. I have it in my top 5 albums of the year so far.
Yeah, as do I.
Yeah, you know, I would love to like put some more shine on that. It's got a song with Black Thought on it.
Maybe my
Which
song of the year. Like
is
truly, that's the
absolutely
yeah.
incredible. A
Hustle
song with
don't give. Yeah.
Planet Asia. I mean, it's an incredible, incredible album. And it's a shame that an album like that with an artist that talented who's speaking about such in-depth things would never remotely have that kind of popularity. Like, do you think it's possible for, okay, so going back to the flesh peddling part, do you think it's possible for a woman rapper to achieve multi-platinum status without flesh peddling?
Man, you said flesh peddling, right? As you flex the muscles too. I mean, yeah, I think so. If we're gonna include Lauryn Hill in that conversation, I mean, and that's
now.
today.
Yeah.
I really think we're due, and I think we'll see that in the next 5 years. But I don't want Rhapsody and Shea Noir and the like to miss the train. And you and I collectively, the staff at AFH, we covered Cardi B a lot since 2018. And I do think Cardi has lyrical joints. Get Up 10, which she opened up, her Invasion of Privacy album with, whether she wrote it or not, is a great record to me. And it's got a lot of heart and soul to it. And I like her delivery. It's totally different than what we're getting in this video. I hope that day comes. I believe it'll come. And I want it to come with somebody that's not, I don't love this term industry plant, but I feel that, Macklemore came on the rise of guys like Slug and Brother Ali and Murs. And then all of a sudden you had a vested interest and boom, you get Macklemore. There's cases throughout hip hop history where you get that 5 years too late with somebody that's very beneficial for the industry. I want Rhapsody, Shea Noir. I still want Jean Grey. I want Bahamadia. I want Heather B. Like, I want the flowers to the folks that really deserve it and never needed to resort to flesh peddling, to use your term.
Well, who has done it though? Since Missy and Lauryn Hill. I mean, like
At that level.
Latifah and MC Lyte, right back in the day, Yo, but they were like gold artists. They weren't like, maybe Latifah got platinum with the UNITY record. But dude, that's like Missy at her peak is almost 20 years ago. What woman has achieved platinum level success, without that? Since then.
That's really spitting. Not platinum. Yeah, you're not. But do you think I'm out of line to say that in 5 years we'll see that? We'll see somebody in their own lane get accolades where we're not even talking about gender like that.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Rhapsody's album was critically acclaimed. Both Eve and Layla's Wisdom. But Layla's Wisdom got the Grammy nod. It got like heavy endorsement from Charlemagne. She was on Breakfast Club. She's on all the major outlets. But it didn't, she has, verses with Kendrick. You know what I mean? Like really
co-signed from Jay and Dre. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It got Jay-Z behind it. Like, I mean, like it doesn't get any bigger. And yet, her sales and like, the recognition doesn't approximate that of something like this. This is number 1 on trending for YouTube for like almost 2 straight days. It was number 2 yesterday when I looked at it. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at this level, I don't know that we'll ever, because I mean,
Tierra Whack, but she still wasn't like platinum status.
No, and I think Tierra Whack is widely recognized in for lack of a better, like the alternative press, and she does her numbers for damn sure, but I don't know that, you know, like the Grammys and a lot of the media cover her in the same way. I think it's been, you know, self-started. And like you said, Rhapsody has that in the media. She has key people in her corner that really amplify her message and still. But yeah, I mean, I really do have faith, but I don't, you know, the same way that we look back with Reverie at the 90s and we talk about Bahamadia and Heather B and Lady of Rage and maybe Gangsta Boo and, you know, pick wherever, whomever, Mia X, who I actually want to talk about in a second. Yeah, I don't want the talent that we have right now to miss its opportunity. And yeah, Shay Noir and Apollo Brown. That's actually, you know, Apollo Brown gets a lot of props, and I'm gonna say this is in his top 3 albums ever that he's done with an artist. I'm going the OC album, which I love, Trophies, but I'm very OC biased. And then I love an album that he did early on with his group at the time called The Left. But this is, and if there's 3 albums that Apollo's done, this is in the 3, and that's no shots at Joel or Guilty Simpson or Planet Asia or anyone else. You know?
Razkaz.
Right, Razkaz, incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So So No Limit Chronicles.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is going under a lot of radars. You know, again, it's sort of like what we're talking
on
about.
BET.
Four parts are out right now. Admittedly, I'm halfway through it, but I'm enthralled, you know, and I didn't expect to be. Master P has been talking for a lot of years as he's moved into film of getting a chance to tell his own story. At times it was going to be dramatic. There was even word, and we reported this on AFH, that Queen Latifah, who you just mentioned, might play his mom. So P and Romeo have taken some hybrid of whatever they've worked on, and they've given it to BET. And, you know, so many of these docu-series have done really well right now, especially during Corona, where you can't necessarily go out and produce new content. This is really good. And the things that I don't love about it there are some reenactments, some dramatic stuff in there, but very little. What I love about it is P got everybody. Like, you know, all the artists on his label seem to be there, and it's not, it doesn't paint him in a martyr's light. You know what I mean? He's not a messiah. He's just Master P. And I love this because, to me, No Limit, they don't get covered like Bad Boy, Rockefeller, or Death Row. We don't know the history of some of these Southern dynasties at a widespread level. Sure, there's books, but even on a Wikipedia page, it's really slim. And this is one of those cases of, if we don't tell our own story, then who will? And the archival footage is stunning. Like, you try to do a Google search of No Limit, of the images, and I know from our years of AFH, there's not always a ton out there. This has so much video footage and photos that I've never seen. I'm just really enjoying it. Soren Baker, who's part of the AFH family, is in it. A lot of great journalists, Rodney Carmichael, P. Frank Williams, and like I said, all the No Limit soldiers. And they're really getting esoteric with it, where they're talking about some of those early albums and songs, and they make no bones about it. The Master P was not the greatest rapper, and they make no bones about the fact that a lot of people rejected his style of music, his whole thing. But even if you agree with that, and let me be the first to say, in 1998, I was a No Limit hater for the most part. This really makes you appreciate what he built, and just as a Black entrepreneur, how fair he was with his artists, you know, and admits his mistakes, but, you know, really tried to create a system where artists owned things, you know, a total different story than you get with Ruthless or Death Row, or even maybe some of the things we've heard recently regarding Bad Boy and Puff. This is Master P finding a way to make you understand why he deserves more flowers.
Yeah, why do you think he doesn't get and No Limit doesn't get the respect that it should, you know, given the impact that it had?
There's no machine around it. I mean, literally, and I've never understood that. And it's one of the things, I mean, there's a lot of people say when Beats by the Pound, you know, the production that No Limit had when they left, which was over a financial dispute, that No Limit lost all its energy. But there was no fade into the sunset. Like, all of a sudden, Master P seemed to step away. He had his basketball dreams. He had his sports agency dreams, his film dreams. The company's turned over to Romeo, which you could be a diehard No Limit fan. There's no way you're going to be excited about, an artist that was kind of a kiddie rapper taking over the company. So No Limit never got a chance to have that like glory in the same way that, every week I see people in Philly wearing Death Row t-shirts. Like No Limit just doesn't have that. And there's no label infrastructure around them of let's tell our own story, which you get with Def Jam and you get with, even Rockefeller and stuff like that. So I don't know. And this is really cool. One of the things I didn't realize, I always back in the day looked at Master P as one of these artists that kind of tried to nudge himself into the Tupac conversation. Back when if Tupac made one song with somebody, he could ignite a career. And I looked at Master P and I'm like, yo, you're always just trying to nuzzle your way in. And this really shows that in 1993, Tupac met Master P at his record store, brings him on tour, believes in him at a time when Master P was getting booed off the stage. And you can understand why P took it so personally and, when Pac was murdered.
Yeah, I was in that camp with you of being a true No Limit hater. I never got it. I tried to go back and listen to some music recently. Still don't, I liked Mystical a lot, and he has some great songs. I like the stuff that Snoop did, 2 out of 3 albums at least. But in terms of like the Master P and like Silk the Shocker and, X and, their core artists was never for me. I found the production to be kind of sloppy, I thought it was quick and, the dubs weren't on in sync and, to that degree, it was actually kind of Tupac-like,
Yeah.
although I like, the way the Pop put the vocals like that. But then also the rhymes just were not, the flow was not sophisticated at all, and Mystical was, which is why I gravitated toward him. That being said, like, and I always thought that the covers were hokey, the whole nine. But I had the utmost respect for Master P and the grind and the movement they were building. And I loved, the tactics like advertising the next album and every single album. They'd have like, 2 or 3 albums coming out and just how prolific they were. And even though I didn't like the album covers, just the distinctive, you knew instantly that it was a No Limit album, like just from like, 10 feet away. Like, so that kind of branding, savvy marketing, I thought was phenomenal. I respected, he was in real estate and that he was, doing independent film. I got the hookup, still hilarious to me, one of those hood classics, in the best and worst ways, So always really loved the No Limit movement. Huge fan of that, even though I didn't like the music. I haven't seen the documentary yet, but something, I watched a Snoop interview with the Breakfast Club recently. And it blew me away because, we all know the story. Snoop has been very vocal about Master P saving his life and everything. But he told 2 different stories about P and what a stand-up duty was. First of all, he was in the studio doing a track. He walked by and he was in the studio with Mystical stopped him and was like, "Hey, what's up, man? And you want to record?" And he and Snoop and Mystical ended up recording. And then Master P heard it and he invited Snoop in. He's like, yo, how much we need this song, how much you want for it? And Snoop was like, just give me 15. He was, kind of down in his luck at the time. He was out of sorts with Death Row. And he meant 1,500 and Master P thought he meant 15,000 and Master P gave him 35,000 or something like that instead. And he was like, yo, I like how this guy gets down. And then, he said, look, come on down. He talked him out of doing an anti-death row record. He said,
With Matt 10.
Yeah. He's like, yo, that's going to get you, you don't want to do that. It could get you killed. Like, it's going to spark things off. Talked him out of that, had him come down to New Orleans, moved his family down, got him a house. And then, and they signed a 3-album deal. And once that was over, it was over. And typically, to get out of a contract like that, you have to continue paying royalties on your next albums. it's called an override. But Master P he was just done. Like, you gave me a commitment, we're good, like, and keep it moving. So um, I think the savviest business people are the ones who have a long-term vision and aren't just in it to make a quick buck, And he understood that relationship with Snoop was going to serve him much better than just trying to get him for everything he could financially. So, that just made me respect him even more. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too about Snoop. And one thing I tell myself, I mean, in 1998, I was 14 years old, and I was as infatuated with hip hop as any 14-year-old can be. And it just so happens, Master P, I think, put out Ghetto D, which is, I think, his greatest album in 97. And by 98, it was MP The Last Dawn. And, Snoop had come over then and put out No Limit Top Dog, his second album, which was really good, to your point. But 98 was also the same year that you had Black Star, that you had Brand Nubian making, Don't Let It Go to Your Head, that you had Tribe with, the Love Movement. Like, for me, by 98, I was already like buying Ruckus Records t-shirts and just going full into the underground. So yeah, I mean, No Limit looks silly. And those colorful cases, it was almost like buying candy. And that's not the movement that I was about. So here, boom, 22 years later, to go back and reconsider. And I've been listening to the music and I'm enjoying it more now than I was then. And that doesn't negate any of your points about some of the sloppy mixes and beats and, but in a way I'm looking and I'm like, some of the criticism that West Side Gun gets about, you put out 3 albums in a year and you get your daughter to do the artwork and you're slanging features, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's the No Limit model,
I was literally just about to say that grind reminds me very much of No Limit and Master P, and they just put out a song, Conway, The Machine, featuring Method Man,
yeah.
Lemon, on Friday, which I thought was a banger.
On our playlist.
Yeah, it's on the playlist, and again, Method Man has not cursed on a record since I think at least like 2013 or something like that. And he said, F it, like he didn't use the word, like, so his streak is still intact, which I just find fascinating. But great verse. But what was your thought about that record?
I really liked it. I mean, to me, I don't need the record, and what I mean by that is, I'm interested in what Conway's doing regardless. The fact these guys work together is great. In a way, I see a lot of similarities between the two of them. I mean, Meth within Wu was the most recognizable and one of the most celebrated. You got Ray and Ghost right there. But Meth has been somebody that's given features to everybody, not only back in the 90s and the 2000s, but today. And that's what Conway does. And he can do that alongside Eminem. And he can do that beside a rapper that you've never heard of before, and treat them both with the same intensity. So I look at both of these guys. I'm like, you guys love hip hop. You take it very seriously for nothing else than just to see y'all come together. It's really cool. And not for nothing, this song, this collaboration is a setup to Conway's next album, which has production from, Havoc, Eric Sermon. He's got a gang of people on there. So I'm really excited about that. The Griselda takeover is not touching the brakes. It's just laying on the gas.
Man, when is that album coming out?
9/11.
Oh man, that sounds like I didn't even know that was coming. That sounds crazy. I'm a huge fan of all of them. But something about Conway's voice and flow, hits me to my core.
Definitely, yeah.
Benny.
One other thing I just want to mention that I thought was kind of cool as we're talking about label stuff this week, is Saigon, who's another artist that I feel like never got his due. I mean, his debut was The Greatest Story Never Told. Came out arguably like 5 years too late. I think it came out, I can't even remember, 2010 or something like that. Saigon partnered with some subsidiary of Strange Music, so Tech Nine and Travis O'Gwyn. And, those guys are actually adjacent to No Limit. Like, they were part of the same kind of family. The EVP of Priority was huge at Strange for a lot of years. This is the first time Strange Music has signed an East Coast artist that I can remember, or at least an artist from New York, because I know Ritz, you know, is from the Southeast, but he's got an album dropping in August, and
Yeah, that's an
Saigon.
odd pairing. What do you think that comes from?
I think it's just the indie grind, but I also was looking, you know, Sway and maybe King Tech as well have been very active with Saigon throughout his career, you know, very early on. And then in recent years, you know, with Rich Nice and different folks. And, you know, Sway and Tech have a close relationship with Tech Nine. I mean, they were very instrumental in kind of bringing Tech Nine towards the mainstream back with the Wake Up Show. So I'm like, maybe it's 2 or 3 degrees of separation that, you know, but also, I mean, Strange Music just knows these artists that have cult followings. And in the past, I mean, the big acquisitions they've made, it's funny, you know, Brother Lynch Hung, who's a really skilled lyricist and gangster rap from Sacramento, you know, Ritz. There's a few other people that they get that make noise. So I'm excited for this. I just want Saigon, you know, he's been a big supporter of AFH over the years, but I want him to prove beyond the greatest story never told, just how talented he is.
Yeah, it's his journey is so interesting to me. Like I don't know if you know, but one of my best friends and frat brothers used to manage Saigon.
Oh wow!
And this is back in like 1999, 2000. You know, I remember Size is one of his first mixtapes, if not his first mixtape, and just how blown away I was by that. And I've always loved his talent. And then he had the Entourage look, you know, the Just Blaze album, and it looked like he was really about to blow up.
J feature.
But it never happened. What do you think it was that prevented his career from taking off? Because he definitely had all the right things behind it.
I just think with Saigon especially, it was a classic case of, you know, industry rule number 4080. Like, he was at Atlantic at the time, the same Atlantic that, you know, mishandled Little Brother. And I feel like there was a huge, same Atlantic that upset Lupe Fiasco, you know, and didn't necessarily handle that right. I think that Saigon was just truly derailed in a way that no artist can be now. Like, these days, you can put your own music out. You can use social media to get people to campaign around you, which Lupe did. But in 2005, 2006, you know, you were a victim to your employer. And I feel like Saigon got that buzz absolutely bubbling with the mixtapes and those looks that you just mentioned. And they couldn't register it in an album. And then he put it out 3 or 4 years later. And it was great. You know, people really celebrated it, but almost like for that captive audience that only follows what's going on right now, it was too late, you know, which is such a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved his flow and his voice. He was street and substantive. Like, you know, he was the total package for me, you know. You know, I hope this is another shot. You know, Tech and Strange Music definitely does tap into that core following. You know, they're able to, I think, really deliver artists to audiences they might not have had in the past, because Strange Music does have a, you know, a different demographic of hip hop that it touches, you know. One of the artists they did that with not too long ago was Murs.
True. Yeah.
And, you know, and Murs and Slug just released a new album,
Yeah.
Felt Force. And I haven't listened to it, but I know that that's near and dear to your heart. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see this one coming. You know, when you talk about prolific, you know, we tend to mention West Side Gun and we mention Doom and his. No one is more prolific than Murs. I mean, Murs has put out like 6 albums in the last 2 years, and I'm probably missing a few. And a lot of them are collaboration, and that's something that he was doing with the Living Legends era back in like the cassette tape culture. So this was special. I love Felt. Felt came together, like 2003 or 4, with Slug, Murs, and the original one had Ant, which is, you know, the production part of Atmosphere. It used to be half, but the groups expanded a bit. So it's a reunion of many sorts, and it came out of nowhere. They put out a song in the middle of the week, and yeah, it's a quick like 40-minute listen. My joint on there, they're really the first 3 songs, and then I like Sticks and Stones. But both Murs and Slug have made albums in the last couple years that really embrace family, you know, being fathers, being husbands, aging gracefully as b-boys. and this captures all of that, but still has some of that, you know, damn, we like women, like, which was such a foundation theme on those early Felt albums. So this one's really cool, and I'm so happy that it arrived. I've been playing it a lot through the weekend.
Yeah, I find both Murs and Slug to be two of the most honest MCs and most relatable to me in terms of like, you know, just like you said, talking about relationships, talking about parenthood, you know, but also like, you know, cutting loose and being human. Like, you know, so I'm gonna dig into it for sure. I love their musical choices, so yeah, I'm excited. And you know, we've had great interviews with both those artists too in the past.
Definitely, they've been very supportive, and it's cool to see Ant back there. And yeah, they talk about things like quitting smoking and how, you know, your love life once you have kids and you're married might change a bit. It's just got those themes in there that, you know, you and I talk about a lot in terms of where hip hop is going that it hasn't been before.
Yeah, for sure. So anything else you want to cover?
Man, no, that's the big stuff. What about you?
That's it, man. Yeah. So what's your song of the day?
Yo, I went back. It's been out for a few months, but my song of the week I will say is, and no you know, sleep during Corona is not always the easiest thing, but Sleepless Nights, which is it's the first song on the project by Ninth Wonder, Robert Glasper, Terrace Martin, and Kamasi Washington, and all four of those artists are really, you know, artists that I follow closely and artists that I think are making some of the best music in their careers right now. But they very quietly put out a collaborative album called Dinner Party. Yo, check that out if you haven't. That joint, which one of our writers, Huette, put me on to over the weekend, and that's just been in the heaviest of rotation. What about you?
I love that when you sent it to me. You know, for me, I'm gonna go back to the Shade Noir and Apollo Brown album, and for me, it's 12 hours. You know,
Storytelling rap.
beat is crazy, yeah, and she's storytelling. You know, she's got it all, total package. So I thought that was dope.
Absolutely, man. Well, I look forward to when we do this again, and I hope this week gives us some good music too.
Word, we need it, man. Still waiting on. I think some special stuff is coming second half of the year. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Word. All right, man.